introduce each other. We wanted to mention also that we're going to be recording the session so that we can share it to other leaders that weren't able to make it. So in any case, we're also going to be cutting up some information if we have like a few questions, but we wanted to mention that. So today we're going to be talking a little bit about the 10 Days of Connection 2024. Since I see we have here a mix of old hosts or seasoned hosts from 10 Days of Connection, and then what's the focus that we have for 2024. Then we're going to go into the meat of the session, which is going to be how to plan for a mind-blowing connection experience. We're going to go from plan to action. So we're going to give you some tips that we usually recommend hosts to have on their back pocket when they're planning for their connection experiences. And then finally, we're going to close out with next steps and resources to share. So in the chat, we're going to be having Kim and Charlotte taking care of the chat. So if you have any questions, make sure you drop it over there. Okay, cool, Myrna. We're going to be recording the session, so we'll make sure we send it your way. Awesome. So with that, we're going to get started. So for our new members and the ones that weren't able to join to the Meeting of the Minds, the 10 Days of Connection is a movement that started back in 2017, and it's powered by hundreds of leaders and locals such as you that help us connect and create dozens of connection experiences, which are events for locals in the community to engage and celebrate our differences. So we leave it in purpose for it to be very big so that it is as welcoming as possible for everybody. The whole idea and the goal for the 10 Days of Connection, it's for us to fight hate and discrimination, for us to fight discrepancies. And at the end, it's not about changing anybody's mind or point of view. It's for us to learn about where we're coming from so that we can find a middle ground and celebrate that we live in this amazing city. So the focus on 2024 for the 10 Days of Connection, we focus on modeling diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging within all of the connection experiences that we did during the year. We also foster connection, togetherness, and community. And we created more safe spaces for people to have tough conversations. So over the years, and both Myrna and Debbie have been here for several years, have seen the evolution of the 10 Days of Connection. And like every year we keep asking ourselves, like, why do we continue doing this? And why are the 10 Days of Connection needed every year? And that's what it took us to where we are at today in 2024. When we started the planning for the 10 Days of Connection for this year, we asked, why do we need to have the connection experiences, and why do we need to continue bringing people together, right? And we got into a deep research mode into like the importance of connections and what are different issues that are still present within our community. And we have identified 5 main issues that are like common and are still present since the beginning of the 10 Days of Connection, but also they have been evolving throughout the years. So the first one that we have identified is that there is an epidemic of loneliness, and this is specifically what the 10 Days of Connection tackles, right? So we're trying to create these spaces for people to come together and feel and foster that connection within your neighborhood, within the city that you live at. The second one is that we have still seen the increase of political polarization within our country, not only in the US, but also around the world. The third one is that we have identified that Miami is one of the most disengaged cities in the US compared to other larger metropolitan areas. So this is something that we wanted also to tackle with the 10 Days of Connection. And then the other last 2 are connected to what people want, right? So there is a need for safer communities and connection, and how that affects, but it's like this is how connection can help when it comes to mental health, to come to community safety and in city safety. And the last one is that we have identified that connections and community help at the end with economic development and prosperous communities. So when it comes to the 10 Days of Connection 2024, and based on this research, we said, and we validated with you all during the Meeting of the Minds, that we want to work towards more connected communities, towards more united communities, towards more active communities, safer communities, and prosperous communities. So this is going to be the focus of the 10 Days of Connection 2024. And I'm going to be explaining a little bit more how what we have been doing can build up towards these specific solutions and what we're going to be focusing for this year. So before I get started into the workshop itself, I would love for you to download your worksheet. So I sent it to you via email this morning, but in the case that you haven't received it yet, Charlotte just dropped the link in the chat. And this is just a guide for you to work on while we are doing this session. So I'm gonna allow 1 minute for you all to download it. Give me a thumbs up if you get it, once you get it. Okay, I see Julie, Joey, Debbie. Perfect. Okay. So we're gonna get started into how to plan or how to host a mind-blowing connection experience. So the first thing that we said is that we wanted to get here into like a brainstorm or like giving you some tools so that you can start brainstorming about your connection experience for this year. I know a few of you already have an idea of what you want to do, for this year. So also, if you want to share a little bit more about your ideas for this year's connection experience, feel free to drop it in the chat as well. But the first thing that we're asking you to do for this year is to identify what is the solution that you would like to work towards for this year's 10 days of connection. So do you want to work towards more connected communities by tackling the epidemic of loneliness, more united communities by tackling political polarization, active communities, and like how can you engage citizens during your connection experience? So it's more like acts of volunteering itself during the 10 days of connection. Do you want to work more towards safer communities, working towards individual and public safety, or would you like to work towards prosperous communities by sharing resources with the members and participants in the city? Remember how I mentioned before that we model diversity, equity, and inclusion? This is something that we have at the core of the 10 days of connection, what we're going to be continue working towards this year. And during this workshop and the one that we have at the beginning of April, so it's April 4th, I'm going to share a few tips into like how you can include diversity, equity, and inclusion and belonging within your connection experiences. So today we're going to be focusing on, or we're going to start working on the first two, so diversity and inclusion. So starting with diversity, going back to when we asked you to think about your connection experience and how you're going to brainstorm into what you want to do. The second step that we asked you, or that we asked you to think about, it's think about the line of difference that you would like to cross during your connection experience. And for some of you that have been part of the 10 days of connection before, this might look familiar to you, which are the topics that we talked about last year and the year before. So you can choose if you want to pick one of these focus areas or line of difference that you would like to cross during the 10 days of connection. So do you want to talk about sex, gender, and sexuality? You can talk about mental health, politics, religion, diverse abilities, money and income, race, ethnicity, national origin, age and generation, beliefs and values, and togetherness, connection, and community. These are a few topics that we recommend for you to touch on during the 10 days of connection, which are usually the taboo topics or the ones that tend to divide us as a community. But if you have any other topic that either you are personally focused on that you would like to work on, or your organization, that could also be a way of how you can start crafting your connection experience. So we have a few questions that we usually ask, or we usually ask what we have for you to start thinking when you're thinking about the line of difference that you would like to cross. So ask yourself, like, why are you hosting this connection experience around this specific topic? And what lines of differences are you crossing? So I'm gonna put the unbiased team on the spot because we had an office hour with them yesterday, and I know that you all are thinking of bringing two different religious communities together and having them on a dinner, correct? I think that's what we spoke about it yesterday. So when you think about like, yeah, go for it, Joey. Sorry.
No, it's exactly what we're trying to do. I'm looking at this area of, area that you want to be working with. and I think, and I don't want to speak out of turn because I think Joanne, you should jump on too, is the beliefs and values and togetherness and connection in the community. So we feel through education and by being available to our community, our neighbors, then we would hope that they would be there for us in the event that there's, a potential racial issue or an anti-Semitic issue, where we stand with the community and the community stands with us.
Yes, and I will jump in as well. Joe and I are usually on 100% the same page, so I really endorse everything he said and say ditto. The other piece of this is that we are not the first people to say this, but we are firmly believe that once you get to know someone who is unlike you, you're less likely to develop hate and distrust of that person. And we've learned that a really great way to do that is over a meal. We had one potluck that was quite interesting and diverse. And we want to do that in kind of smaller scale. Instead of having, we had like 200 people or maybe 150 come and share food and share conversation and thoughts. And we're going to try to do that on a smaller scale and probably more frequently. So we truly get to know one another instead of just talk at each other.
Yes, I love it. And another thing that we said here, that how you can leverage the 10 days of connection is for you to doing these pilot events, right? Or doing these pilot experiences that you would also like to develop throughout the year. So I see also here that Myrna sharing the chat that the SFCE is focusing on mental health this year, and the connection experience will focus on anxiety. So they're gonna be using the life of composers and musicians to talk about less anxiety. So you see like how like the different topics can help you to craft out or like start narrowing down like where you want to focus on for the connection. So moving on into the third step is that we ask you for you to consider who would you like to bring and invite to your connection experience. So here at the 10 Days of Connection, we're all about collaboration and we encourage this, right? So we encourage for you to work with different organizations that usually you don't work with, or if they have a different constituent service or different people that they serve, so that you can bring them together. So think about like who are the participants that you would like to bring to, and who are the collaborators that you would like to work with. Sorry. Let me read the chat. Oh yes, Tisha, please share. Sorry. Taisha.
No problem. So I'm just curious, and I think this does fall under 10 Days of Connection, but I just want to make sure that it does. I have an initiative going on right now where our foundation actually adopted a local elementary school in West Perrine, Florida. It's our Moulton Elementary. And that elementary school has a lot of deficits that we're trying to work with them, the school board and other partners, to kind of get them to where they need to be. Unfortunately, I don't even know how the school is run this way, but they don't have a art teacher. They don't have a music teacher. They don't have an ESOL program for the students with limited English proficiency. They do not have a media center specialist, so the students don't even get to go to the library and check out books. So one of the things that we're trying to do is work with different foundations, organizations that do music, that do art, that have volunteers that maybe can influx the school with providers and services. So does that kind of fall under 10 Days of Connection, or would that be outside of the scope of what that day is supposed to look like?
Yeah, I would say yes. And so I would say this is like more like a long-term program that you are hosting. But if you want to host like a pilot, I don't know, day of like coming to this school and like serving the children on this school, like that's something that you can leverage the 10 Days of Connection to, right? So like you can invite different people in the community so that they can sign up and like probably be the volunteers for like the ESOL classes or the music classes. Like do maybe like a tryout during the 10 days of connection so that you can like build that pipeline for your programs.
Okay, perfect. Thank
You
you.
see it? Mhm.
Yes,
If
yes.
I can chime in and include something with that, Taisha, maybe you can bring in people from the community that want to hold like an art class for certain students, or go to the library and we like read together, check something out, or invite them in to like speak the language that they speak, like make it like more community based, that they come in and you can see how it is, like Lusana mentioned, like it's a pilot. So invite the community to do it with you so you can see how you can like build this up into a more bigger project.
Okay, that sounds great. I would love to connect with y'all after the call. I don't want to take up a lot of time.
Yes. Which is a good segue for our fourth step, which is defining the activity, right? So remember, for the 10 days of connection, this is gonna be a 10 days festival. So you have different events happening from May 1st to the 10th. So think about, as Kim was sharing, what is the type of activity that people will do, and like how that ties back to like the three first points that I shared, right? Like towards which solution do you want to work, what line of difference you want to cross, and then who do you want to bring together. So this is the first time that we again are doing the filters based on the type of solutions that we want to work with. But what we did yesterday was thinking about the connection experience as have happened before and how can they fall under each of these pillars. So when we think about connected communities, last year, Leap for Ladies brought together people from the community and formerly incarcerated women to come together and sing. Literally, that was their connection experience about, and the whole idea was to bring different people that usually wouldn't like talk to each other or like be meeting on the same space, and like brought them together and do an activity. So that's working towards more connected communities. When it comes to United Communities, the ACLU of South Florida, last year they created a panel to talk about migrant stories and how migration affects or impacts the community, not only South Florida, but in the country around, like in general. So how that ties back to more United Communities, talking about a topic that is very polarized and that is very like political, and how you can find that middle ground or middle point to understand how that affects everybody. When it comes to active communities, Repair the World and Body Systems did actually a food drive and like a volunteering opportunity during the 10 days of connection. So when you think about this type of activity, think about people doing things during the 10 days of connection. So this could be like a beach cleanup, this could be a food distribution system, this could be a food drive or a toy drive. So think about a volunteering activity, or even if you want to fundraise for something. That could be like another type of activity that could fall under active communities. For Safer Communities, the Children's Movement and the Miami Lighthouse of the Blind, they were talking about how to include, or how to not include, but train parents or like teach parents how to support their kids who are blind, right? So like when you think about this, think about like what are the different conversations that people should have to increase individual safety or public safety. And then the last one, when we think about prosperous communities, the Miami Connected team, which is a team from the Miami Foundation, brought together different people, right? Different stakeholders from the public, private sector, and philanthropy to talk about tech equity, right? And if you think about this topic, this is something that affects our city at the moment, and like how can those type of conversations can support on economic prosperity. So again, this is something, the five solutions, something that we are focusing on this year. But for those ones that have been 10 days of connection hosts before, you could see like how the different connection experiences that we have done fit within those different solutions. The other thing that I would love for you to know is that connection experiences can be in person, can be virtual, and can be hybrid. So we embrace all of the different formats for you to host the event itself. And lastly, we wanted for you to keep in mind, how would you like participants to experience this event or experience this connection experience? And here's where we're gonna continue be using the level of intensity during the 10 days of connection. So think about like, what do you want people to be exposed to, and how can you manage their experience? So we're gonna continue be working with the levels of intensity, and we have identified 4 different levels of intensities for all of the connection experiences. The first one, the light one, is that people observe. It feels nice and pleasant, and people are able to learn about something new. When it comes to medium, this relates to like once truths are questions and when you are exposed to that different perspective, and it leaves you thinking, right? Like people, whenever they leave the connection experience, they're like, there's something I want to learn more, a little bit more about this one. When it comes to intense connection experiences, it might make participants feel uncomfortable when they're talking about a specific topic. So one would want to learn again more about that specific topic and have other conversations right after. And the last one, when it comes to very intense, we said that people might need a few hours or even days to recover from this connection experience because it might trigger some personal questions, identities, and it might affect some relationships, right? So why we'll continue doing and embracing the level of intensity is that throughout the years, we wanted for participants to have, like, to know where they're going in within the connection experiences and the experience itself. So based on the different level of intensities, we recommend different type of hosts, or like for you to have different facilitators within the session. So when it comes to the light one, we think everybody can host these connection experiences. For the medium ones, like you could host, but we recommend you to start facilitating and like prepare for that experience itself. And then when it comes to intense and very intense, we recommend you to start having people that are able or are experienced on conflict resolution and trauma management. So we recommend you to have probably a social worker or someone that knows and works around conflict resolution or mediation, because like conversations might get like heated. So you would like to have someone that can help to set up the room or like to contain the room. So in a summary, what you should have on your connection experiences is that you should have the defined solution where you would like to work towards, the line of difference that you would like to work or you would like to cross, and the level of intensities. And these 3 are very important because these are the filters that participants will be able to see the events too on the calendar of events. And lastly, we would love for you to have defined who are you bringing together so that you could intentionally know who are you going to be targeting within your communications. So I know that was a lot of information, and I'm going to open up for questions to see if anybody has any questions or thoughts regarding like the information that we just shared. Yes,
I have a few questions, if that's
Mhm.
okay.
Yeah, of course.
My first question is, would you provide technical assistance to somebody in formulating it? Like if I go through this and I start narrowing it down, is somebody on your team would provide some like TA or be there to provide support?
Yes, so we'll have office hours available, and we're sharing this one towards the end of the resources.
Thank you, because that's my first time. So I have 2 other questions. So do you collect data on this? I mean, do you collect like specific data for impact, not just outcomes, outputs? If you have the number of times that people met, or do you have any kind of measures for like long-term effect of this? And also that goes to my next question, which is sustaining it. Do you guys do anything like that?
Yes, Lina. So we have been evolving during through what kind of data and information we collect, right? So this is why, for example, for this year specifically, we are focusing on the solutions that we are working towards this year. And then when it comes to the other different data, we do ask participants, and we'll share this one with you all sooner. We have different surveys, right, for participants to share with us, like, if you learn something new, if you cross a line of difference, like what's related to the specific impact that you have with the 10 days of connection. And we'll make this one available to you all.
I have too many ideas.
We love the ideas.
So I'm also thinking if there's a particular I don't want to call it a project, but a particular result that is, could be presented to a funder? Do you help with that? So for example, cross-cultural communication, blah, 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 I'm making it up, between Little Havana and Coconut Grove. I'm making that, totally made that up. And that could be packaged to have somebody say, in a form that it could be presented to a funder. Is that something that you guys do? Like, I'm thinking of sustainability.
Yep. Towards the end of the 10 days of connection, we create the impact report. So we create the impact report for you all to share with different funders too, and like how the collective work of the 10 days of connection has impacted on all of these different pillars.
I'm still thinking. So thank you.
Okay. Of course, Lina, we're happy to help. And answer any questions. Yes,
I
Caroline.
have a question about the trauma piece of it. So I know one of our events is about, it's a data walk where people come in and are able to explore data visualizations about a given topic. And I think we're going to do climate change. I know that one is like a sneaky one, like climate trauma is like a new and emerging field. But do y'all have like best practices, especially where it's like not as straightforward? Like I think there's more work done on like trauma related to like religious situations, but like environmental stuff is newer. Like maybe just like I don't know. I'm like trying to think it through and be thoughtful because I don't want anyone walking away from the event feeling bad, but I know when you have hard conversations that can be inevitable. So just want more context on that.
Yes, we can think about an organization that might work around trauma when it comes to climate reality. So we can think about different hosts that can also co-host with you, Caroline. I can also support you. So when we think about the different participants and collaborators, we're not only sharing with you all that to think about people to bring different people together, but like maybe you have one organization that works, like trauma management, and then you have the data and you co-host this event so that you cover both ends. So that's another recommendation that we have during the 10 days. Awesome. Any other questions?
Luisana, I'm sorry, this is Danielle.
Yes.
I was in a, how are you? Thank you so much for everything that you do and for the love and patience that you put, to everything that you guys do. So I was just, I had a curiosity because, so on May 4th, we're having, I run FCC. FCC is Fútbol con Corazón. It's mental health, using mental health and emotional wellness through soccer to create social impact, for kids and youth. So coincidentally, we had planned with the U.S. Soccer Foundation and Adidas to have a Unity Cup for the youth that we serve. They're from, Homestead, Little Havana, Hialeah, they're from all over. And we can take some of their parents. And it's May 4th. So I was like, okay, to not reinvent the wheel, we have all this dynamic, diverse kids, their parents are coming, some of them, right? So why don't we do something within that? It's gonna be in Little Haiti. The event is gonna be in Little Haiti, and in a football field, in a soccer field. I don't know what it's called. I don't know what it's called. Little Miami Soccer. I don't know what's really what it's called. But I was thinking to host something there for 10 days of connection, because if you just to organize it, it's complex. And because FCC doesn't have like a huge office, like we have an office, but it's to host so many people. We said, well, why don't we do it there? So I wanted to ask you if that's okay, and if we can have someone from Days of Connection attend as well. And the point is to say, like, how like sports unites people, right? Just like food can unite people, and it's like a social lubricant. But the same thing is for soccer in this case. It's just facilitating conversations and empathy-driven relationships. So would that be a possibility or no?
Yes, I'm happy that you brought it up, Danielle, because that's another thing. You don't necessarily have to invent the wheel. Like you can also have some of the events that you already have scheduled, as you were saying, Danielle, within the 10 days of connection. Another example have been like some examples of like how we have done that before is like we have an activation of the 10 days of connection within that specific event. So for example, at the Power of the Purse last year with the Women's Fund, we had the banner so people could take pictures at the event itself or in a
Oh.
fostering connection. So yeah, totally you can do that.
Awesome. I love that. That's amazing.
Mhm.
Perfect. Thank you, Luisana.
Of
Awesome.
course. Happy to help. Yes, Julie.
I have a question about registering events.
Mhm.
Like, how does that process work in terms of if like I said, I work with a lot of different nonprofits, so I'm thinking just having each one of them try to do an event and I'll just kind of like support them in that process. Do they need to register with you guys in order to do events? How does that work?
Yes, thank you, Julie. So for this year, we're super excited to share that we are building an event platform just for attendees of Connection and also to make it seamless for the host and participants. So we're gonna be making that available towards the beginning of April, Julie, and it's gonna be basically a site where host organizations register, where like name, last name, email, and then you upload directly the event within that website so that it is a unique registration for participants and participants are able to see the different events. So we're gonna make that available to you all towards the beginning of April.
And there's no money involved or anything. It's just a matter of uploading the information
No.
so you can track all the connection events.
Yeah, not only like track, but also how to make it easier for participants to see the different events. Because the idea for the calendar of events is like it's concentrated and like let's say that some participants from Debbie's organization from DIC goes to Debbie's event, but they also will be able to see the event from Unbiased or the event from like any of the organizations that uploaded into that and also participate. So it'll be also a way of like how to cross-pollinize or like how to make it available for everybody.
Does it matter? Thank you. Does it matter? Dade, Broward, Palm Beach? Does it matter?
Doesn't matter. Mhm. The more the merrier. Okay, let me see. Okay, so uh-huh.
Yeah, I kind of have a follow-up question to what Julie asked. So we also have providers that already have scheduled events and things that are going on. I think it would be helpful for me to understand. I would, in my head, I'm trying to say like, it would be in this category or this category or those categories that you showed, right? So not to just say, this is a random event where people can get together and explore it, but it would fit into one of those strategies or categories that you showed before. I'm not familiar with them. I'm sorry. I'm like a study person, but to fit into one that says, so like if it's food distribution, it could be
An active
whatever.
community.
If it's safety, we work with the National Guard, and if it's safety related, it would go into that category, right?
Correct. Correct. And then why we're categorizing into like all of those categories is like for that one, we can track the impact, which was related to that first question that you had, Lina. And second, for participants to also know where to go. So we also want to make sure that the participant experience, like it's also smooth and also they can participate in as many events as possible. And no, you don't have to be a nonprofit organization, Julie. This one is open for everybody. So we have had hosts that have been like from the private sector to university, nonprofit, and also individual leaders or local heroes. Okay, so I'm gonna move forward into like the second part of this workshop, which is giving you some tangible tools or tangible strategies for when you host your connection experience. So we call it from plan to action. And over here, I want to give you some tips into how to project plan for your connection experience. And remember at the beginning, how I share about how we're embedding diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging within the attendees of connection. For this one, I want to focus on the inclusion part of it. Before we get started into that, here are a few things to consider whenever you're thinking about hosting or organizing your connection experience. The first one, our timeline. Then we have logistics, promotion. We're going to be focusing on execution, and then at the end, a call to action. Because remember, this is just the first event of something that you might want to have long-term throughout the years. So when it comes to project planning and execution at the end, like these are kind of the timeline that we recommend for you all to have. So take some time to ideate your connection experience if you haven't done so. Then take about like 2 or 3 weeks to plan for your connection experience. And then based on what I shared before with Julie, we're gonna be opening the registration for the connection experiences on April 4th. And the deadline is April 18th. So you can submit your connection experience throughout like any day within that window. And why we intentionally close it by April 18th is so that we have enough time for all of the events to be promoted accordingly, because we will have events from May 1st to the 10th. Then we ask you again to help us to promote the events. We're going to be supporting you on the promotion of them all, but also we support and ask for the host organizations to help us promote. Then we recommend you to remind your participants the day before the event so that they know that it's happening. And the cool thing about this new event platform that we're developing is that that's automated. So once people register to your event, they are going to be receiving an email automatically the day before as a reminder. And lastly, we recommend you and we're always encourage you to engage with participants from May 11th and on. So we always recommend you and encourage you to not leave your participation or your engagement with participants and locals on your event or your connection experience event, but like how you can make this a sustainable relationship with them. So when you think in it, going back to like planning, when you think about your 10 days of connection event and your experience before, a few things that you need to consider, and this is kind of obvious, is that make sure that your connection experiences fall between May 1st to the 10th so that we can embed it within the calendar of events. The second thing that we recommend you is again to think about the experience. And this is kind of separate or different to what I shared at the beginning. It's more about like the physical experience and what you would like for people to feel like. So things that you should consider when hosting or planning for your connection experience is what's the kind of environment that you want to create for them? Do you want to create a welcoming environment? Do you want to create more like a classroom style environment? So think about what's the type of experience that you want for participants to have. And then once you have that, you can start thinking about the different venues where you want to host your connection experience. So we have had connection experience being hosted at public parks, at universities, at offices. So like the sky is the limit into where you can host your connection experience. But again, all of that is tied to what you want to accomplish. And the last one is thinking about the room setup. So think about if you want to have your participants to sit down on a row, or if you want for them to see each other, or if you want to have them on a circle. These are different elements that it might be little, but it might cause a big impact when a participant joins into an event itself. The second thing that we would love for you to start considering is thinking about accessibility, right? So again, we want to make sure that everybody's welcome to these type of events. So think about if the venue that you have is wheelchair accessible. If you have a virtual event, you might want to have like captions enabled, or you might want to have an ASL interpreter. So think about those friends who are people living with disabilities and how you would like to welcome them to this space. Similar to that, or like on the same line, we're thinking about food and drinks. One thing that we always recommend is like, do you have food for everybody? So you would have vegan options, vegetarian options, but also the regular options or dairy-free, right? So again, these are small details, but like they make a big impact for those who need those type of accommodations. And so that like they'll feel welcome into the space itself. The other thing that we recommend you to also have in your mind and consider are the type of materials that you might need for the event. So do you need paper? Do you need pencil? Do you need markers? So think about like what are the different things that people would do during your connection experience that will help you to enhance that. And lastly, think about any resources that you would like for people to have during the connection experience, but also for them to live with. So for example, for this event at the beginning, I shared with you all the worksheets, right, that we're going to be working on today. So make sure you think about these type of materials and resources available. You have everything set up and everything planned. We need to get loud. And we want for people to come into the different connection experiences that you all are hosting. So we recommend you to use physical flyers, digital flyers. Make sure you meet up your target audience where they are at. So that might be a community center. They might be a specific school that they're at. We also recommend you to leverage your listserv of constituents to share out about the different events that they're available. And then lastly, use social media. So at least on Instagram, you can also tag us and collaborate with us on different posts, and we'll be making sure to post that also in our social media and always cheering you on. So make sure you tag us into everything in all of the promotions that you'll do. Then during your connection experience itself, here are a few tips that we recommend you to have, right? For the first one, it's welcoming people, and I inform people of what is gonna be happening during the event itself, right? So share out any agenda in advance or making sure it's available for them. We also recommend you to have the sign-up sheet, and again, you will have this available to you on the platform of events. You'll be able to download the participant list. And then establish any norms if necessary at the beginning of the event. Is there any logo you want us to use on social? Yes, Julie, there's not necessary for you to add the 10 Days of Connection logo, but if you add it, it'll be cool. It's available on the host resources page. We'll be sharing that in a moment. Okay. Then this, when it comes to like the facilitation itself, we usually recommend you to come with a spirit of giving, be authentic to yourself, be authentic to your organization at the end. Again, what we want to celebrate with the 10 Days of Connection are the differences. So we always encourage you to come and be your authentic self during the connection experiences, be energetic, and another thing that we recommend is for you to know who's in the room. So make sure you have name tags and recognize so that you can recognize who's in the room. These are all the recommendations during the 10 Days of Connection, is that everybody has something to teach. It's so cool how much you learn during these connection experiences that you might didn't know that you would like know on that specific event. We recommend you to ask questions and ask for examples. And again, face uncomfortable. These might get you in some uncomfortable point because you might be experiencing new events or like new learnings that you didn't know before, and that is fine. We recommend you to read the room all the time, so make sure that you are aware of that so you can readjust and control the space. Lastly, we recommend you, as always, to make memories, to take pictures. So these also serve as to tell the story, Lina, as you were saying. Other recommendations that we have is if you have virtual events, we recommend you to have cool Zoom backgrounds, maybe with the name of your organizations too, so that you can have the visibility. You can create a template for social media for your participants to share. And as always, again, remember to tag us, not only before, but also after, because we want to also celebrate what you did during the 10 Days of Connection. Or things that we recommend you to have after the connection experience happened, it's always asking for feedback. So as I was sharing, Lina will be sharing the participant survey at the end so that you can share it with your participants so that we can know what's the impact that we're having collectively with the 10 Days of Connection. We recommend you to send thank you notes or thank you emails following up if you promise anything during that specific event, and that's tied back to the evaluation. And like this is more like internally, right? So when you think about those first questions that we asked at the beginning, we always recommend you to go back at the end and ask, did you achieve your goal? What do you achieve? How do you achieve it, and why? And what's next for you and your organization? So again, these are different tips that we give to everybody whenever you're hosting different events. And we hope they're super helpful for you, or they're helpful for you when you're thinking about organizing your connection experience. So we're getting closer to the end. I'm gonna open it again for questions because I know, again, that was a lot of information. And then we're gonna be sharing just some next steps and all the resources for you all available, that you have available during the 10 days. I'm gonna open up the space for you all to ask questions. Okay, well, no questions?
Good morning. How are you?
Good
I'm Ramona
morning.
LaRoche. I'm at the African American Research Library in Broward, Fort Lauderdale. And we participated, I think maybe 2 years ago when you did the 10 days of race.
Mhm.
And I wondered, so this year, is there a theme specifically or?
Yeah, so for the 10 days for this year, we're gonna be focusing on 5 main solutions, right? Let me share again the
Can you say it
the ones-
again? I'm sorry, I didn't understand you.
We're gonna be focusing on 5 solutions, right? So we're working towards more connected communities, united communities, active communities, safer communities, and prosperous communities. So
Okay,
all of the connection experiences should fall into any of those 5 pillars of work.
okay,
Mhm,
thank you.
of course.
Are there any other Broward people on the Zoom today?
Yes, we have
Julie,
Julie.
hi, how are you?
I'm good. I was actually just gonna put something in the chat if you wanted to connect afterwards to see
Okay,
if we
I'd
can
like that.
collaborate. I'll put my
I'd like
info in there
that.
for you.
Thank
See,
you.
nice connection. See how that works?
Yes, we'll recommend you to all to collaborate and also connect, also within these spaces. Okay, so for us, before we close out the space, we ask you to please give us some feedback about the session, and if there's anything else that you would like to know about the session or something else, this is gonna be super helpful for us to understand what do you need for us to build up on the next session. So I'm gonna give us like 1 song for us to fill out the survey form, and then we're gonna be sharing with you all other next steps and resources available. In case that you haven't finished the survey yet, please make sure you fill it out towards the end of this session. But I know we have like 2 more minutes left, and I want to make sure you have all of the resources available to you all. So when it comes to next steps and reminders, these are the different activities that you have available as host organizations during the 10 days of connection. Our most upcoming one, it will be the Connection Award hosted by the Connection Ambassadors. It's more a celebration and also a way to connect with other host organizations and leaders within the space and within South Florida. Then on March 20th, we're gonna be having a collaboration session, and you can think about this more as an open brainstorm session with all host organizations. So if you would like to join, not only to share about what you have been thinking of, but we can also help you shape your connection experience. Then on April 4th, we're gonna be focusing also again on a skill development workshop, and we're gonna be focusing on how to upload your connection experience to the event calendar. And finally, we're gonna wrap up on April 16th for a final prep session and community building session with all of us so that we can prepare for the 10 Days of Connection 2024. And then lastly, remember that the deadline to register your connection experiences will be April 18th. So we'll be sharing more information about how to do that once the platform is ready. Finally, when it comes to your host resources and support, Charlotte is dropping them in the chat, but there's a website available to you all with different toolkits that you can use for your 10 days of connection. We also have created a shared Google Drive where you can also check out those resources. And as Kim said at the beginning, she will be your point of contact and your host support for this year. So you have both Kim's email over there and the link to office hours so that you can book time with her. So I know that usually you wanted to have some time for us to bring some together. And with that, well, I want to say thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for hosting.